Kiwi Yarns with Brodie Kane.
Kia ora te whānau and welcome to Kiwi Yarns. Today's guest is Auckland Law School academic and Toitū Te Tiriti spokesperson Eru Kapa-Kingi. Eru very much became the face and voice of Hīkoi mō Te Tiriti, which saw more than 50,000 people descend on Parliament late last year to show the unity with Māori and tangata Tiriti and to stop the Treaty Principles Bill. It was a time in history and something many New Zealanders, including myself, were extremely proud of. It also saw a bit of a changing of the guard. Faces of a new generation of young Māori, dubbed the kōhanga generation because of their strength in their reo, whakapapa and identity. Eru, you are part of that younger generation and welcome on Kiwi Yarns.
Kia ora, great to be here.
How are you? That's always question number one.
I'm good, yeah, I feel really good at the moment. Since the Hīkoi I've been kind of focusing in on whānau and when you leave the house for a couple of weeks and you're not very present in the months leading up to organising such a big thing like that, there's a lot of catching up to do afterwards. So I've been catching up and I feel like I'm pretty caught up now with my little whānau and I'm feeling good. Yeah.
Yes, I guess like you're coming up for air because, I mean, that's... Yeah, you've got a young whānau, you've got a wee 1-year-old, you work at Auckland University, you've got your foot on the accelerator driving political change. Do you have to operate a really efficient calendar? Like have you got it all mapped out?
Definitely, yeah. My Google Calendar looks like a rainbow, really, and if it's not in there, it's not happening. So it has to. I have any event and moment in my life is accounted for in my calendar. Okay,
so I'm curious about your colour coding. So you do colour code the
I
Google
do.
Calendar?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
What's your codes? What's like is one colour mahi, one like fun?
Yeah.
How does it work?
There's no real logic to it, but I go light blue for mahi related stuff for uni. And then I go red for like Toitū stuff because it just seems natural. Yellow for whānau stuff. And then with stuff related to our whānau business as well, which is starting to kind of, its wheels are starting to turn. For some reason go purple. But yeah, just to differentiate them. No,
I'm here for it. I love it. It always looks kind of really impressive to anyone else that might see it over your shoulder as well. It's look at all that. Yeah. Hey, let's start with Hīkoi mō Te Tiriti because it was such a huge moment and a really important piece of history here in Aotearoa. There's lots of moving parts to what I want to talk to you about, but like the way it was organised, the beauty, the unity, the aroha, and the logistics, and I'm a real logistical geek. It was a real moment. I guess, can we first though talk about that changing of the guard? The new generation taking responsibility, how this came about and how you were involved and why this has been so important?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of things that I probably can point to and sort of where maybe the kind of shifting started to happen. But I couldn't say that there was that anyone had control over any of that, if that makes sense. Like a lot of it, I believe, was spiritual and was and natural and a very Māori, happened in a very Māori way, in a very natural way. And I guess one of the first moments where the older guard, the OGs, did want to kind of formalise, though, a bit of a handover process was a meeting that was held here in Auckland at Auckland University at Waipapa at the marae, now referred to as the Waipapa hui, which happened. I can't remember exactly. I was overseas at the time actually, but that hui happened at Waipapa, and it was basically discussing the thoughts of the likes of Annette Sykes, Hone Harawira, Tamiiti, Ken Mair, Miriana Pittman, those who had been in the Māori rights game for a while, and basically expressing how they were feeling and putting a bit of pressure, but with aroha, with love, pressure on my generation to pick up a spade and start doing some mahi. So yeah, that was a pretty pivotal moment. Even though I wasn't at the hui, I got back from overseas and I was basically told that my role was to do this by my uncle Hone Harawira, and I didn't have much choice in the matter really. And at that time I was pretty stern. I said I don't want to do any of this, and my uncle, as he does, just kept putting on the pressure, and then November happened. So
why do you think? Can you look back and think, oh, I can kind of understand why he put the pressure on? Like at the time, did he tell you why that you had to take on this role?
This is again just going back to that kind of spiritual stuff that I talked about. So in 2013, that was 12 years ago now, I went to Youth Parliament as Uncle Hone's representative. This was when he was an MP for the Mana Party for Te Tai Tokerau. And so I suppose our kind of political relationship started then, but our whānau relationship happened before I was even born. So my name is Eru, and I'm named after Uncle Hone's nephew. So Uncle Hone's brother, his name's Arthur, he had a boy, and his name was Eru. And he died by suicide a few months before me and my brothers were born. And because my mum had a very close relationship with Uncle Arthur, the name of Eru was bestowed upon me. So the relationship I have with the whānau Harawira, and I've talked about this in other contexts, that relationship I've had with them is something I never really had control over, but something that I'm grateful for to this day.
And that's amazing. And I guess when you talk about the spiritual side of things, is that something that is it always evolving? So, for instance, I guess the way I asked that, if you come back from overseas and it's like, right, Eru, we need you to do this, and you're like, oh, no, I don't want to. But you can look back at that now and you're like, there's always things evolving in your spiritual journey? For sure.
And I guess my ability to read what's happening and to just kind of succumb to it as well. And I think I describe that as being very Māori because we don't exist in one moment in time. It's not just Eru at this second today, but we exist generationally, and we exist as a culture, and we exist because of each other. So looking back on those moments, those wairua moments, spiritual moments, are very much part and parcel of being Māori. And the further I get on my own journey of reclaiming who I am, the more cognizant I become of that, and the more I'm able to appreciate it, because it's beautiful actually, because it's those moments where I feel like my tupuna, my ancestors, really have my back.
So if we go to the actual rolling out of organising this Hīkoi, what were your emotions like when it was like, okay, this is going to be big, and what did you sort of feel when you knew that this was something that you were going to have to do?
I felt nervous, but I felt ready. And we, as the Toitū Te Tiriti movement strat team, we had got some reps in before the Hīkoi, I guess, with our own activations that we had called at different periods in the years before. And so we had some practice rounds to be able to gauge our audience, I guess, and how captivated they were with our messaging and with our tone, and how we used that social media to share information around the logistics. And so when we had got to admitting that we had to organise and put the infrastructure around the Hīkoi, we felt ready, but still nervous.
Yeah. Was there, when you had the your older generation, I guess, was there this sort of fascinating thing where they're sort of imparting wisdom, but they're also saying, for instance, let's take something like social media, which is something that you guys get, but maybe Uncle Hone was like, oh, I'm not really down with the social media reels and the stories and that kind of thing. Like, was there this real kind of balance of what can we take from them but grow with our knowledge?
Exactly, yeah. And there were definitely tensions, and I think Uncle Hone made a joke about it kind of when we were getting to the end, and he thought, you know what, boy, maybe after the Hīkoi I can finally figure out how to look at a tile on Instagram, right? And then we all cracked up. But and I suppose we were selling them the dream the whole time and saying, look, Uncle, Auntie, like, trust us, this is going to work. Like, the world will see this. And they're a little bit unconvinced up until they turned up, the moment that they turned up to kind of the first parts of the Hīkoi and saw just how many people came, and that point was when I felt the full trust had transitioned into us as the newer generation coming through. And yeah, I'm glad we were able to use social media in that way, something that wasn't even available to them in their time. And this isn't to be disparaging of them. In fact, it makes me marvel even more that they were able to pull together the numbers they did in their time without social media. So yeah, they're the OGs for a reason, and I'll always respect that.
What were some of the moments that you cherished? I mean, look, it reverberated around the world, which is obviously something that's amazing, and people fighting for Indigenous rights all around the world would have been able to see this. And, you know, just these powerful images, and that's what's so special about photography and video, is it'll last forever. But what are some of the moments amidst what I can only imagine is sleepless nights, phone calls in the middle of the night, long days? What are some of the things that you hold dear to that whole experience?
Yeah, this might be counterintuitive to some people, but it wasn't for me the moments where there were thousands and thousands of people. It wasn't for me really, and even though the day in Pōneke was amazing, and really not being able to see the ground was like, that was crazy. But the moments that really struck a chord like in my heart were the little moments that when we were, say, driving between kind of one small town to another, seeing a whānau of 4 standing on their porch and they're all holding flags, you know. Those are the moments that really felt just were so beautiful and magical and made me really emotional, actually. And so it was the small moments that maybe weren't captured on camera, that maybe the world didn't see, that I will never forget.
When you look at the Hīkoi and the message around it, and if I think of the death of the Māori king and our new Queenie, one of the things, and look, this is an observation from a white woman, so, but what I have enjoyed soaking up as a New Zealander, as a Kiwi, is what appears to be a lot of unity and celebration amongst iwi as well across the country. Do you think that there has been, that has also come a long way with some really big, poignant moments where all Māori are coming together?
Yeah, I do, and I think it's a convergence of a lot of factors, quite besides, I guess, the political scene or realities in recent months. There's, going back to your point around the new generation, right? So the last census statistics had us at roughly 1 million, right, which was a new record, I guess, for the Māori population. And then a huge chunk of that population are under 30 years old. So the convergence of that growth in the Māori population, and many of that population being quite young, I think has also contributed to this new energy, right? Because I do believe that newer generations are quite ready to I guess contribute and take part in a massive movement, in an Aotearoa movement. And yeah, it's exciting actually to be present and living in this moment and being able to observe how it's playing out.
When we talk about the Treaty Principles Bill, and did you get the sense along the way amongst the Hīkoi, and even I guess now, did you get the sense that a good chunk of New Zealanders believe that it should be stopped? Definitely.
Yeah, most definitely. And a lot of, I was really taken as well by the amount of tangata Tiriti that came in and supported the Hīkoi and took part in the Hīkoi throughout, from Te Reinga all the way to Pōneke. And that was probably what convinced me the most, that actually Aotearoa, Kiwis, New Zealanders, Māori, there are many of us that think this is a terrible idea. And it goes hand in hand too, I guess, with our messaging and our beliefs as a movement, is that actually what is good for tangata whenua and what is good for Te Tiriti o Waitangi is good for everyone who calls this place home. And to see many tangata Tiriti who know and believe that as well was special. Yeah.
Now, when you hear the narrative, oh, don't worry, it's not going to get past the next reading, it's fine, don't worry about it, it's not happening. Do you have the patience to answer that question to anyone?
Yeah, I suppose I have to have the patience to do that as a spokesperson for this kind of movement, but it's not actually that complicated to me to the answer to that question. Because even though technically it might not get to a referendum, so to speak, at least through the mechanisms of Parliament, I'd say what we've already entered into is a type of social referendum, right? And that's what can be the most damaging for my baby and the others in his generation who are Māori and growing up in this world and trying to figure out what their identity means and who they are and their place on this whenua and their relationship with the whenua. And so the damaging rhetoric is already out there and is actually encouraged by this process. And the select committee process was a good example. It basically just gave airtime to that type of narrative, and that gives it a sort of legitimacy, and that's scary and that's dangerous. So from a broader perspective, thinking beyond the technical legal mechanisms, socially it's harmful.
Do you think, though, when you look at something like that, like the process that it has gone through, and the success of the Hīkoi, people's passion, people's learning, and that despite the very thing that it is being concerning, upsetting, legally fraught, offensive to Māori on every level, can you see positives, i.e. the fire in people's bellies growing? And so I guess I'm not trying to say, oh, but there's some good things that have come with the bad, but
right, yeah.
What have you seen in terms of across Aotearoa where you go, okay, right, we will take some of the positives, to sometimes 2 steps back, forward type scenario? Yeah,
I think it's definitely brought necessary awareness to these sorts of issues, right? And so you can't really hide from this now. I remember it was maybe not even like 2-3 years ago when Taika Waititi came out and he said that that racism exists in New Zealand, and so many people were up in arms about it and we attacked him for it and said, no, that's not true. Racism doesn't exist here. And now there's no way you can deny that it does, right? Because it's been given a stage to rear its head. And so there's no hiding from that now. And probably the positive from that is that there's an awareness now for those who before maybe didn't quite believe that it's a thing. Well, it is a thing. And then that hopefully what attaches to that is sort of a social moral obligation to do something about it. And so engaging not only Māori communities, but also Pākehā and Aotearoa who want to show up for Māori communities as well. I think there's that's definitely a positive that I'm seeing. Yeah.
Have you ever met and spoken with David Seymour?
No, I haven't. He came out to the Hīkoi on the day that we were in Pōneke, but no, I've never spoken to him.
What do you think he wants out of this treaty principles bill?
I think that it's actually quite a multi-layered strategy that he is a part of, but there'll be many other players who we probably don't know the names of who are encouraging this whole strategy forward. And I think it plays right into right-wing politics that we're seeing all over the world, and it's pretty much out of the Trump playbook, right? So it's finding a mechanism to amplify hate towards minoritized communities, Indigenous communities, and then at the same time building this whole politics of distraction, right? And whilst this kind of circus is going on over here, doing about 1 million other things over here that are probably more damaging, at least in the short term. The extraction of resource, unbridled extraction of resource. I saw a video from Matt Watson recently kind of ringing an alarm bell around fishing. And so all of these things, many of us just haven't been aware of because of that politics of distraction, right? So yeah, there are many layers to it, and David Seymour and his contemporaries are very aware of what they're doing, and they're not stupid as well, but what they're doing is damaging and disgraceful regardless.
You're someone that's very well spoken, well educated, and not even remotely close to shying away from what you believe in, which some might say is a triple threat. You've had that fire in your belly for a long time, and I hear that in terms of when we talk about your whānau, you've said that you're not afraid to say it like it is, and that you get that from your mum. So let's start with mum, who is a member for Te Tai Tokoro, Te Pāti Māori, and her influence on you and the role that she has played in your life.
Yeah, well, that's my mum's like, so I'm a triplet, so I've got two brothers.
Well, then that's a triple. That's a triple threat.
Yeah,
we need a new name for that. That's hectic.
And we also have a little sister, and a lot of people say to me when they find out that we're triplets, they're like, they say like, oh, well, how did your mum do it? You know, 3 boys at once. And my response always is, well, if there was anyone that was going to do it, it would be my mum, because she is a boss. She doesn't take stick from anyone. And growing up, my brothers and I were very compliant, because we had to be, because mum set the rules, and we knew that whatever she says, that's the tikanga of our whare. And so she very much instilled those values in us, but at the same time, she always saw us and loved us unconditionally and entirely for who we are, and always believed and continues to believe in us. And I think that's probably the key thing. Growing up, and we didn't grow up super rich or anything. We grew up in a low decile area, went to a low decile school, but it didn't matter, because we just, growing up, always knew that there was more out there, and there was greater out there for us. And mum was a change maker in her own situation with her whānau and her siblings, and we benefited from that. And now our whānau is really thriving, and I'm just always every day grateful to my mum, and I'll always have her back too.
It's interesting, because I have no doubt you get asked this, you know, oh, do you want to follow in your mum's footsteps? And you know, you have sort of dabbled in youth parliament and things like that. But I know that you've also mentioned that often, and perhaps where you are maybe right now, is that often you can create change and be as influential, if not more, outside the system that your mum is in.
Yeah, and I'm learning that firsthand right now, and that was a big realization I had during the Hīkoi. And yeah, I do get asked that question a lot, and I'll probably get asked it more leading into the 2026 election. But my priority is my little whānau and my baby boy, and he's my purpose, and I don't want to be flying to Wellington every week and not spend time with them. That would just destroy me.
But I think you have a point in terms of I've spoken to a lot of people over the past few years that have either dabbled in politics or, you know, either not quite being the right fit for the party that they might have been going in, and the mahi that they can actually do in a career that still is sort of, you know, outside but still influential, is something that's probably just as powerful as well. And I think that is probably something that we do see here in Aotearoa.
Yeah, for sure. And I think both things are very important, and especially from a tangata whenua perspective as well. We can't sort of choose one or the other. We have to play both games, right? And I think importantly, though, particularly for the newer generation, is to shift how we think about what it means to be Māori and political, right? Which doesn't necessarily have to be living in Wellington and being an MP, right? So we can be Māori and political in our own ways and redefine what that means to us. And I can't say for sure what that means right now, but I'm excited to be a part of what that reclaiming looks like.
You got your mata ora in November, was it, last year? So was that you got it just before the Hīkoi?
It was about three or 4 weeks before, and that was another kind of spiritual thing, because I had booked it maybe a year in advance, and the Hīkoi all happened quite quickly, and there was no way I could have known that it would have been right before the Hīkoi happening. But yeah, it did, and kind of crazy actually, but yeah.
Can you explain the process, because it is a real journey, and how it went for you?
Yeah, it was years of making the decision, I guess, and being brave enough to express that decision to my family and to the people that I care about. And yeah, it's gone hand in hand with my own journey of reclaiming my reo, my understanding of Te Ao Māori and tikanga Māori, which is a journey I've been on properly for like the last 10 years since I left high school. So as I've shifted through that journey, having this on my face has become more of a reality, and now I'm living out this reality. But probably 5 years ago, if you had asked me if I was going to get a mataora, I would have said no way, for a number of reasons. And a lot of that was internal racism as well, because when I was growing up, the narratives I was told was that if you had a marking on your face, you're a criminal, you're no good, you're a misfit to society, those sorts of things. And so, yeah, it wasn't something that was encouraged. I also couldn't even name the last ancestor I had that had a mataora. And yeah, all of these kind of colonial impacts that have oppressed the freedom to wear these markings really got to me, and I was able to kind of break those chains off of me and finally get it done November last year. And it was it was a journey. Physically it was very testing, mentally more testing, spiritually as well. But afterwards and still to this day, I feel so proud of myself for doing it. And grateful to myself for doing it, because I feel free, and I feel connected as well to my ancestors in a way that I probably couldn't have felt until getting it. Yeah.
Obviously, you mental and physically. How do you manage both of those? Because it being such an important thing to you, but also being like, gosh, damn it, that really hurts. Yeah.
Vanity goes a long way, I think, because if you're getting something on your face, you don't want a crooked line, so you're going to stay as still as possible. So that definitely helped me through part of it. But also, spiritual preparation. I'm lucky that I have tuakana and brothers that I can lean into to do karakia and those sorts of preparation, preparatory rituals beforehand. And I've had a bit of practice as well on other parts of my body. So, but the face by far was the most challenging, but it got there in the end.
And how long was the whole process? How long did it take?
The drawing and then the marking was probably about just over 8 hours. It was a full day. Yeah.
And all in one?
Yeah.
Wow, okay. Your father, Korotangi, so he's a master carver.
Yes.
Taught Māori arts at Te Wānanga Aotearoa. What's his impact on your life been like?
My dad, if you know him, he's very, he doesn't speak with words so much. I think that's typical of carvers, artists, is that they speak through their mahi, through their arts. And real humble fella, real cheeky, funny. And that humility, I guess, is always something that I've admired and looked up to growing up. And the appreciation I have for my father, I couldn't put into words really, but he's always had our back. He's always been there, and again, always believed in us. And I love how much of a contrast he is as well to Mum. Mum very stern, very talkative, very vocal, but Papa's like the opposite. And their relationship as well has been a great example to us of what aroha looks like growing up. And our Papa has always showed us what it means to be a Papa, a tāne, and how to hold that role and hold it down for whānau and for whare. And obviously something in the last year with my baby I've really been honing in on in my own journey of figuring out what it means to be a papa. But so lucky and grateful to have him as an example.
And then we go back to the triple threat, Himi and Tipini, your brothers. You have very different professions, but a common purpose. For instance, you guys organised, facilitated a 4-day forum that brought together a whole bunch of influential voices, academics, community leaders, politicians, and rangatahi at Waitangi. So it's a pretty formidable family, and Are there what's the dinner table like when you all get together?
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the things that I'll always be grateful for is we don't do small talk in my whānau, never have. Dinner table conversations have always been about meaningful, deep things, and that was very normal for us, even from a very young age. And our parents would always encourage us to voice our opinions on certain things, like poverty, homelessness, our rights as tangata whenua, our relationship with the land, like those sorts of things where we talked about quite normally as a whānau and still do today, and with our babies, the new generation coming through, as a culture, I guess that we'll maintain. But yeah, we don't talk about the weather, we don't talk about sport ever, but we talk about our lived realities as Māori.
Yeah. Your kaupapa, I believe, excites, drives passion, it encourages learning and understanding, and not just for Māori. You have True, which is a social media series with Rihanna Te Ngāhui. She's amazing. You are really clever, articulate, and nailing and getting really important messages out there. Social media being vital. Are you finding that you're reaching and teaching people who may have been either naive, ignorant, misinformed, or just simply not aware?
I think so. In terms of some of the comments we've been getting on our recent posts, there have definitely been people showing appreciation for new things that they've learned through the content, which is very encouraging for both Iana and I. And it's something that I guess we're still kind of figuring out as we go, the best way to portray the information so then it really sinks in. And it's just one of many kind of efforts in the social media world, I guess, to educate and to empower. I can't lie, though, there are definitely some other comments that are discouraging and kind of... but that's the thing with social media, right? Like, it's difficult to regulate who can come on and comment on your stuff. But, it's never nice seeing racist comments on any of your posts, but they're there. If anything, I barely take the time to read them or let alone respond to them, because there's just no point. But they are a reminder that we can't let up, It's like, okay, the stuff's still kind of there, so there's no taking it easy at this point. Yeah.
I remember, this is probably going at maybe 4 or 5 years back, I had a Kiwi yarn with Stacey and Scotty Morrison.
Right.
And one of the things she said as well, when I said, look, it was actually more advice that she had that she gives to herself. And that was pick your battles. And so, I think she used an example of just trying to reach particular people and then just going, do you know what? I'm never going to get them. And so it was one of those things where maybe that's the same, because like social media is like it's a help and hindrance, right? It's so good. So I guess it's leaning into... You can always block them. Do you block?
Yeah, delete, block, yeah.
But it does take a toll, and I guess, have you got tools in place that you use to protect yourself?
Yeah, I suppose karakia Māori is always something that, and like swimming in the moana if I can, and just centering myself and my whānau as well, reminding myself of my why and the people that I do it for as well is important. But yeah, that's a really good point from Stace. Because if you're trying to fight every battle, well, it's impossible, right? So
yeah. I think she was talking about an old white dude. Pretty sure it was Don Brash actually. I'll check. I might need to fact check that, but it could very well have been Don Brash. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. And she was like, "It's not. I'm never gonna win." You know?
Yeah. Exactly.
Do you think that naivety, ignorance, misinformation, and a lack of awareness are big parts of the problem?
I do, yeah, and I think they all actually revolve around fear, a fear of the unknown, I guess, and a fear of different, a fear of change, and that's probably the easiest thing to try and address first and foremost, and then maybe the kind of the detailed education can kind of come in around that. But for many people, I think the primary issue to address is the fear, and ask, where does that come from?
It's amazing that you say that, because you're leading me into my next question. And now, and I guess it's probably it's a big question, but no, you've answered it really, but I still want to go there. So the power systems and structures that are built upon people with skin the colour of mine, scared, frustrated, and maybe riled up. But what is it? Why are they scared? What do you think that fear is? Do you think it's... Let me give you an example. If I say Aotearoa or Ototahi, and I use those examples because I have... I can remember one Facebook post where I was in Ototahi, it's where I'm from.
Right.
And I'd put up a post. I was at the Sale GP, so it was nothing to do with anything other than just having a really good time at the Sale GP. And I wrote, I'm having an amazing time in Ototahi. And somehow, and I don't really go on Facebook that much for this very reason, somehow, wherever that landed, caught the ether of the bad ether of that place. And so I opened it up a few days later and was like, oh my God, what has happened here? And it was vile. And so that was, I thought about it and I thought, what is that? And is that fear of, is it about losing power? Do you think that there are people that genuinely think that they might wake up one day and, oh my goodness, we're not in control anymore? Is that what you think it might come down to?
Yeah, I do. I think it's the loss of the power, I guess, or the control or influence, and then what that might mean for them in kind of real life terms. So that's where the fear comes from. And honestly, from my perspective, it seems like a projection, right? And it comes from not knowing, one, the true intention of Te Tiriti o Waitangi, which was to create a home for everyone to flourish here, tangata whenua and tangata tiriti, and people coming from overseas. Not knowing that, and then two, not believing in Māori philosophy as being an inclusive philosophy that promotes balance, that promotes everyone thriving, and is a philosophy where everyone has mana and everyone has tapu. And how I kind of see it, I see mana and power as being two very different things. So power comes from a European philosophy, and if you apply kind of a capitalism lens, power in a capitalist European society comes at a cost, right? So for me to have power, ideally you shouldn't have any, right? Because that's how capitalism works. That's how the elite stay the elite and the majority stay where they are, right? And so that's power. But in Te Ao Māori, we have this thing called mana, which I to this day struggle to find an English word that's equivalent to it. But mana doesn't work in that way. I have mana and you have mana, and I don't have to diminish your mana in order to keep mine, right? And so I suppose we're the original socialists in Te Ao Māori. But who would know that, right? Because our tikanga Māori and our Te Reo Māori have been cast away in a dark corner to most of New Zealand society. So not knowing that, not appreciating the beauty and the magic of Te Ao Māori is an issue, because it creates a void. And then what do you fill that void with? Well, what you know, right? And your own projections. And so I think for a lot of Pākehā who do post vile comments like that, they're assuming that once we revive, I guess, tangata whenua, revive our place as tangata whenua and our rights and certain measures of control and influence associated with those rights, that we're going to turn around and do to Pākehā exactly what they've done to us for 200 years. But our tikanga would never allow that. And going back to the point I made earlier, tangata whenua rights are good for everyone. And they're great for wahine because misogyny doesn't exist in Te Ao Māori. They're great for rainbow communities because hate towards rainbow communities also doesn't exist in a Māori philosophy paradigm. It's great for everyone because rangatiratanga or Māori leadership is also measured by your ability to provide for your people and to feed your people. And that's why poverty, prisons, those things didn't actually exist in Māori society before James Cook got here. So that's nothing to be scared of, and that's the message I always try and share.
Oh, I just I really, really enjoyed listening to that, because I ask myself all the time. I'm like, what is it? And the only answer I ever come up with is fear or being scared.
Yeah.
But I guess that comes back to those other words, right? Like naivety, ignorance, racism as well, obviously. But I feel like people like you are then doing just this amazing mahi in educating people. It's not your job to, but if people are listening, if Pākehā or any other ethnicity or whoever's listening, what do you want? What should people do? Because as I say, it isn't your job to educate people, but you do a damn fine job at it. What are ways for people to lose that naivety or, get a better understanding? I mean, if they listen to your answer just then, they'll be bloody sweet. But, what should people be doing so that they understand that it's not us versus them and it's not this versus that?
Yeah. I think first and foremost is just building a genuine awareness and an ability to genuinely listen, right? And so no matter what conversation or education or opportunity you enter into, your ears, your mind and your heart are all open to that, right? Because if you come in and all those things are closed, no matter how amazing the information is, no matter how well delivered it is, it's never going to land, right? So it's having an open mind, open heart and a willingness. And I suppose that all comes out of a place of aroha and a place of trust as well. And not buying into the fear-mongering narratives about greedy Māoris who want to take everything, which is ironic because we've lost not over 97% of what we used to live on quite freely. So, yeah, open heart, open mind.
I guess one thing as well would be for people to realise that it's okay and actually we should be uncomfortable, and that is a normal part of the process to realise that the colour of my skin, the person that I am, I'm not a bad person, but I can, well, I mean, I can be a little bitch sometimes, but I mean, but where I'm going with that is that it is normal, and it should be something that Pākehā feel uncomfortable with our history. We can't deny it. We can't just put a Band-Aid over it, but that people should sit in discomfort. Would you say that? Because I think that adds to that fear as well. Like, oh gosh, no, I don't want to talk about that because our ancestors did really bad things.
Yeah. And I think, that's a necessary part of the process, and as uncomfortable as it might be, that's where all the learning happens, I think, is in those uncomfortable spaces and in those tense moments where you have to kind of admit things, right? And the only way through it is through it, right? As opposed to trying to turn your back on it or try to find a way around it. It's never going to go away because we're never going to go away, and our truth and our reality is never just going to disappear. And as we grow as a people, it's always, if anything, it's just going to get louder and louder. So encouraging and acknowledging are the first steps to resolving.
When you look at the future and your baby and your whānau, what excites you about it?
I'm excited when I drop my son off at Kohanga and I see all these little beautiful brown babies running around, speaking Māori, singing Māori, being Māori, right? And just being their amazing Māori selves, and knowing that there are many kohangas just like this all across the motu, and that there are whānau out there really doing their best to reclaim culture. And I watch Matatini grow every 2 years, and probably the greatest Māori event ever, and it just keeps getting better and better, bigger and bigger. And these are all this is all a coinciding of te iwi Māori getting back on its feet and being standing in its mana, right, standing on its top, and I'm excited for that. And if I kind of think about where my mum is at, where I'm at, and the kind of progress generationally between my mum and me, it excites me to think about where my son's going to be when he's 28, and then he's already had a 28-year start on his papa, and so I can't even imagine that, and that excites me, that I don't even have the capacity in my mind to even be able to imagine how amazing kind of his future is going to be and for his generation. And despite kind of the evils that we're experiencing at the moment, I'm glad you asked that question, because it's important to keep an eye on the light at the horizon. Yeah.
And on our tamariki, I've got one niece, two nephews. They are part Taiwanese. They all do kapahaka, and they're down at school in Masterton, and you go down there and watch them do that.
Yeah.
I was at Mount Roskill school a couple of weeks ago when the FIFA Club World Cup trophy was here, and the whole school did a pōwhiri and haka, and I was tears.
Yeah.
But that does, I wasn't speaking Te Ao Māori at school, and all the kids at many of the schools that I've been to when I do Duffy books in schools and things like that. So it is that thing where you have to remind yourself, the kids will get us through.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and that's just how we operate as Māori too. It's always about our not about us now, but our babies, their babies, and that's just a very natural tikanga in Te Ao Māori.
Slight subject change. You're like a real solid. Let's go back to triple threat. One of them being you studied Te Reo Māori and Pākehā law, and you graduated with a conjoint law and arts degree with first class honours in law. You're now a professional teaching fellow at University of Auckland. So just low-key slide that in there too. That's the, what did we say that was? Was that light blue? That was light blue in the calendar, wasn't it? Yeah.
Good memory.
How important is that mahi for you?
It's important for me because I get to at least have it crack at influencing the minds of young students who eventually will become judges, policy writers, MPs, lawyers, judges. And so if I can plant a seed early around tangata whenua rights, around Indigenous rights, public law, te tiriti o waitangi, then maybe that can really avoid what we're experiencing at the moment with some MPs and some political figures. So yeah, that's why it's very important to me.
You mentioned sort of at the start that post Hīkoi you've been taking some time and sort of, like back with whānau and figuring all that sort of balance and whatnot. Is it still a learning phase for you though? You've got so many of these things on whānau, time, connecting, being present. Is that sort of a learning in terms of trying to figure out how to do them all? Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, and that's probably the greatest kind of battle every day, is trying to find that balance. And having a baby though has really proved to me what's important though. So it's good having him there as a check to be like, actually, this is what matters, But yeah, I can't say I've mastered it, and I don't know if I ever will, but I'll keep trying.
Oh yeah. What do you like to do when you're like? Have you got like a hobby, or like something you like to do when you're like, there's no colours in the calendar, I'm gonna go and do this?
I like watching baseball. That's a bit of a thing that I've been into lately, because it's quite easy to watch and it's not a lot of thinking involved, but it's fun to watch as well.
Yeah.
And if I have time as well, I'll go to the park and swing the bat, and I've got a bit of a setup. And it's cathartic as well, smashing baseballs off a tee. So yeah, sometimes I do that.
Yeah. And so when you're having a day, like if you're having a day where you're like, what calms you?
Calms me. If I can get up north, I'll go either fishing or diving with my brother. That's always like a great way to kind of disconnect from the craziness of the world. Diving in particular it just forces you to you have to be calm when you're diving. So it's a good strategy. Yeah.
What would you say to people that have listened to this and are like, okay, what can I do? What can I do? How can I be an ally? What do I need to do? What's a couple of simple things that you would like New Zealanders to do?
Definitely, if you want to learn some stuff, go onto our True NZ Instagram page if you want to engage in some of that educational content. So that's a big step. If you got the time as well, I think it's powerful. As we talked about those comments that racists make on different social media posts sometimes, I quite enjoy seeing other Pākehā coming in and responding and defending as well in those comments. So if you've got time to do that, that can be really helpful and could be something you could do today if you've got a spare 10 minutes, but don't spend too much time because obviously it's a bit, can be a bit of a waste of energy, but can look quite impactful. Yeah.
Awesome. And if you could say anything to the government today, what would it be?
Their days are numbered.
Sorry. Full stop?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Okay, cool. Good. What's something people might not know about you?
I used to dance. Yeah, like hip-hop dance for a number of years in, it was kind of primary intermediate days.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So you still definitely bust a move?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
And I've got subsequent questions now then. So you're at a bar. What's the song that will always get you up? Like, doesn't matter whether you're mid-ordering a drink or like you're in the loo, you're like, there it is.
It's basically any kind of old school R&B, hip-hop R&B. If it's like old school Chris Brown, old school Mario, Usher, any of that.
Yeah. Brilliant. Okay. I'll give you your Kiwi Yarns quick fire questions. Cool. But first, I've got an extra question to give to you, and this is all thanks to Blundstone Boots, Tasmanian born, New Zealand worn. What's the hardest job you've ever had and why?
Well, aside from being a papa, and that job never ends.
You've got that for a few years.
Yeah. A job that will make a tani out of you is digging any kind of hole, but particularly the holes that people that have passed away go into. So that's a role that I kind of in Te Ao Māori is something that whānau do, and if you've never done that, that is intense, mahi. And that cohort are called kaikiri puka, and some. That's one way they're referred to, and it is an unseen task, but it is the hardest. It is a grind.
Yeah. Okay. I have not done that. The only holes that I've dug though are ones for myself. That this is going somewhere. Believe me. When I was in the army, we had to dig trenches to sleep in. Uh-huh. The absolute pits. Right. So that's a small way that I can relate. Right, question number 1 for the Kiwi Yarns Quickfire. What kai is on the menu for your final feed?
I like to believe that that day will never come. but anyway, I would say, some sort of probably my dad's boil up alongside some rewhānau bread.
Okay, beautiful. If I gave you a magic wand to change one thing in Aotearoa, what would it be?
To delete all racism.
Great. That's a great answer. Done. I wish. Your favourite Kiwi artist or song?
This is a really hard one. If I was to go old school, and this is for a song, I would go Scribe. I've forgotten the name of it actually, but I know it word for word. I was down and out, struggling. That song, that's like brings back memories for basically, I think, any Māori boy. And new school, I've been really getting into Renzo. Renzo Season, great song. Yeah.
For everyone listening, I'm apologising for thinking that I could provide the backup vocals when you did that. I apologise. Where would you love to go in Aotearoa that you haven't been?
Probably the the top of the South Island. I've never been in that area. So anywhere around there, Nelson, Hakatu, I've never been. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah. Okay, well, you got time to do that.
Yeah.
Now, do you mean like, do you have Marlborough? Have you done Marlborough? So the whole Nelson, Marlborough, all of that?
Never done
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you'll love that.
Okay.
Okay, good. All right. Put that in the diary. That can be green.
Yeah, why not? Yeah.
Last question. You're stranded on the Auckland Islands, in particular, Disappointment Island. What are the 5 things that you'd take to avoid being stranded and disappointed?
I definitely take my son, my beautiful partner.
Well, they can be one.
Okay, that can
Whānau.
be one. I'll take a boat, a fishing rod, bait. Have I got one more?
You go one more.
Wetsuit.
All right. Hunting, gathering, sorting all the whānau out while you're there.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Much, yeah.
Before we go, is there anything else that you wanted to say or add? I've got no more questions, but if the floor's yours, if there's anything else you wanted to say.
I suppose just reiterating the point that I think would land most with listeners for this platform is just Te Tiriti is your friend. There's nothing to be scared of. Embrace it. And if you embrace it now, your kids will benefit from it.
Beautiful. Thank you for taking the time, and thank you for this beautiful kōrero. Thank you for your presence online, and just, I guess, yeah, like a massive congratulations on the mahi that you and so many other people did to show so many people that unity is what will get us through, and that Hīkoi was such a beautiful display of that. So thank you for all your mahi, and thank you for coming on Kiwi Yarns.
Tēnā koe.
Thank you everyone for listening. That was Kiwi Yarns. We'll see you next week.